What is going on, everybody? Yes, sir. We are back at it on another, on another fantastic Monday, if I do say so myself, along with the rest of Eagles Nation. What's up, everybody? Good evening. And I kind of noticed that I'm in a little bit of a stream traffic right now. There's a bunch of stuff. There's literally a bunch of stuff going on. We got some huge live streams going on in the midst of me trying to do this call in. So we'll see what ends up happening. But hello, everybody. Lindy Endzone is back in for the touchdown, taking the lead for the Philadelphia Eagles. One video podcast or stream at a time. And yes, I did want to use that little introduction clip for Sideline Sports Network as being, the main event of that one. The main event of that one, of course, between myself and Philly Jim alike, is that, the Linc'd In Podcast. Make sure y'all check that out if you haven't yet. That is every Tuesday night at 9:30 p.m. over on Philly Jim's channel. And I can already tell that tomorrow night is for sure going to be no holds barred. And we're gonna let plenty of Cowboys fans hear it. We're gonna hit them with the facts. We're gonna hit them with the stats. Hit them with a bunch of different things that they're just pretty much not ready. That they're pretty much not ready for, unless it's things that they kind of have an idea on where they're what the Cowboys have been to this point through 6 weeks, sitting at 4-2 with some Eagles fans, and a lot of it's warranted. You would think that we made this victory, and the loss for Dallas as the sky is falling down, much like a lot of people thought going into week 2 for the Cowboys when they lost against the Tampa Bay Bucks, that everyone's thinking that Dallas is just not going to be off to a great start. Cooper Rush comes in, he wins 4 games in a row, and it just took that one chance. It took that one opportunity for a team like the Eagles that are competent on both sides of the football, top 5 to top 10, both in both statistical categories. When you talk about points scored and points allowed, the Eagles right now, as through 6 weeks entering their bye, we are 4th in the league in points per game remaining at 27, and did go down a little bit if you want to talk about 0.2 of a point, 26.8 points per game. Number 4th in the league in points per game. Defense, still pretty damn respectable. Almost top 5. We're on the outside a little bit. We're in 6th right now, still only allowing 17.5, 18 points a game, and you will take that. You will take that absolutely in combination with the fact that entering this game against the Dallas Cowboys, Dallas has been 23rd. And that's been updated after the week 6 matchup that they just had against us last night. Dallas is not a scoring team. And, we kind of had an idea. We kind of had an idea of that going into this game, or at least I have had an idea based on who the Cowboys are as a team. And I think that's where a lot of the misunderstanding has come in, that you need to analyze. You need to look at who the Dallas Cowboys are. And up to this point, you look at their sack numbers and everything, and how well their defense has, played. Again, top 10 in points allowed, but offensively, they're just not good at scoring points. They're not good at pushing the ball down the field. They're very, they like their chunks in. They like their chunks in short yardage, and that's just the position that Dallas is in right now until they get Dak Prescott back. But again, this is another call-in stream. We're trying it again. We're trying it again this week, and I understand that, and that my content has been a week apart. Um, for the moment, and some things get in the way a little bit, outside of the channel, and getting some of whether it's overtime at work or getting some home improvement done on the house here, just little things. um but I'm definitely looking to get a lot more active, as well I should have been at the start of the season here. But nonetheless, I am here. I am pushing the content out, and yeah, I sure do have a lot of catching up to do in the content creator community. Just, well, to keep myself relevant amongst everybody else. But nonetheless, yep. As I said, this is another call-in stream that we got going on. The link is pinned in the comment section there. So yeah, this is another means of hearing the voices of fellow Eagles fans. And yeah, use that link. Use that link if you want. And yeah, just so I don't keep him waiting in the background here. I know even before I started the stream, he has been chilling in the back. But wanted to bring on BLSG, and I think I already have an idea on what else he's going to remind me of. But again, this is a Eagles stream. But yeah, we'll see nonetheless. So we'll bring him in here for a quick minute. BLSG, what's going on, buddy? It's been a minute since we last did something or on a call in or whatnot. So how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. At the end of the day, hey, 6-0 before the bye.
I know the Eagles could not, and that's why I put it in a thumbnail. And you understand that we could not be in a more perfect position right now. And we'll go through it a little bit more through the statistics of the game, and we'll address some of the injuries that the team has had. But even before we put this to bed and digest it. How were you going into this Sunday night football game? Knowing that the Eagles were favored. This is at the Link, and this was kind of a revenge game, especially for Jalen Hurts, especially for a lot of the individuals on the coaching staff, just getting into their first year and building a cohesiveness with the football team. And obviously we did not have the best of luck against the Cowboys last year. They come to our home again at the Link, and it was almost a completely different story. But as we know, with this football team, they always have to make it dramatic at times. So how did you feel going into the Cowboys game? And is there any surprises on your end on the final result?
In terms of what we saw, I've been doing a lot of mini previews on my channel as of late, and the final score I had 24-21, the Eagles winning, and it turned out to be a larger win than that, but not by a wide opening on what I had on my preview. I had 24-21, and it was a little bit of a wider gap than that. But, at the end of the day, we get the win, and, I kind of was expecting everyone to just do their job, protect Jalen Hurts on blitzes, blitz all over Cooper Rush because that man's a pocket passer for life, and just play with energy at the end of the day. And I think we saw that pretty well. And hopefully after the bye this week, we get back on the road going into the All Pennsylvania Bowl or the Steagles Bowl, whatever you want to call it, between us and the Steelers in Philly.
Right, and I already know, for me personally, I have a distant cousin that is a huge Steelers fan. So I know if we lose, I'm not going to hear the end of it. But I do. As for a lot of us, I don't think we're picking the Eagles to lose that game whatsoever. I mean, the Steelers have some flip flopping with at the quarterback position. They have issues there. Kenny Pickett just had a not so great injury occur to him. They're just in a conundrum right now between him, Mitchell Trubisky, losing T.J. Watt for a long period of time, and just as a whole, nothing's necessarily clicking the way that they wanted to execute early, and so we'll see nonetheless. But while we're on topic of the game, of course, let's get we'll bring up a stat sheet up here on screen, and of course, Jalen Hurts statistically didn't flash anybody, of course, and of course this is a game where he did what he had to do. 15 to 25, 155 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, that's it's a pretty basic. It's almost a basic type of day when you look at it. A QBR of 65, nonetheless. Passer rating of over 90 with 105, and passer rating of over 90. Where did we hear that the last few weeks? Oh, that's right, because all the glorifying that we've been hearing about Cooper Rush and how efficient he has been as a passer, and look who got outplayed in this game. with Hurts throwing the ball 13 less times, and I mean, we get where we're going with that. Another nice note here that I found is that the big three, and I mentioned the big three in terms of those top guys in our receiver core between AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert. They were very efficient when targeted. Only 6 drops combined between the three of them, catching 12 on 18 targets. They did their job in key points. We've seen Dallas Goedert get quite a bit of get a good number of first downs. I think he had 2 in his own right. I think Devontae Smith had a couple. AJ Brown had a few. Along with the touchdown. And then you look at the Dallas side here of things, and we already know how Cooper Rush, what he did and didn't do on this end here. 18 of 38. I don't think anyone's gonna. I don't think anyone wants to take that. I think it's easy to say there. So 181 yards, 3 interceptions, QBR of a 32, passer rating 37.3. It's it's right in front of your face. How bad Cooper Rush played. The Cowboys were not able to get a full 60 minutes worth of quality football, and we seen in the first half that they were down by as many as 20. It was 20-0 at one point before they had to settle for a field goal, getting close to halftime. Another big note that I noticed here in terms of Dallas, for the receiving core, is that they were held to a catch percentage of under 50%. I mean, I think that speaks volumes on how efficient and how consistent the Eagles secondary was between James Bradberry, Big Play Slay, CJ Gardner-Johnson getting in there with his 2 interceptions. So, I mean, this was almost a full effort of very little mistakes that the Eagles made, and I think a lot of what you're seeing on the stat sheet here, paints the best picture, but there's a lot more to it than that. So, again, anything else that you initially thought of, BLSG, when that you can point out as you were watching the game?
I mean, like, you pretty much brought it up. I mean, for the O-line allowed 4 sacks, but keep in mind that we lost Lane Johnson at right tackle. That's when Driscoll had to come in. Dickerson got banged up, but came back in the fourth quarter, like it says on the stat sheet that you made. I think I'm not mistaken. I think Kelsey might have got a little banged up, but he was okay for pretty much the remainder of the game. And at the end of the day, Hurts didn't really play like the way we expected him to. I mean, 15 for 25, 155 yards. The 2 passing touchdowns I will take. I mean, Jalen Hurts, we don't expect to be the same passing QB every time, but this is you know, a this was just a type of game where Jalen Hurts did have those passing TDs and definitely took advantage of those to add on to his stat line so far for the season. And then 15 for 25, not the best accuracy, but again, he's not like going to be the best quarterback every year. And 155, it's going to be hard for Jalen Hurts. I mean, he's young, he's still learning. And keep in mind, he was going up like against a big three, killing that offensive line. I mean, you have DeMarcus Lawrence, Micah Parsons, and someone that's been surprising Dallas this season, Dorrance Armstrong. He's been shocking offensive lines this year, and he's definitely been surprising this Dallas defense, already coached up by someone who already has experience in the head coaching role in Dan Quinn. So that Dallas defense you can't mess with, but at the end of the day, we took advantage of them for the majority of the game, and we found a way to win it and find our way to be in a 6-0 spot going to the bye after this one against the Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at a Dallas, Dallas defensively, I believe to this point, if they're not number one, they're probably top 3 in sacks, as they recorded another 4 last night, bringing their total to 24 in the league. And it's funny because we heard the talk from Tank Lawrence talking about our quarterback. And we know how lethal Micah Parsons is in terms of his defensive versatility, and neither one of those two recorded a sack. The rest of them went to either D tackles or edge rushers, and you were just talking about Dorrance Armstrong. So I think that's one thing that the Cowboys were still able to do on the defensive front. And if you look back to the stat sheet here, I mean, that's one of the biggest factors you can look at here for the Eagles. Again, they weren't very efficient in terms of third down. They were 6 of 14. Now, I think that from the bigger picture here. From the bigger picture here, when you look at their third down conversion, a lot of that was, I think, a lot of the inefficiency to that was earlier in the game until the majority of their conversions. I believe there was 2 big ones on their go-ahead fourth quarter drive, which set up the touchdown to put them up. At 26 with the failed 2-point conversion. But nonetheless, this goes towards what the Dallas defense was able to do. And really, you've seen it on both sides of the football. I noticed the offensive line for the Cowboys. For the most part, they had their way with the Eagles defense. and it's kind of sad. It's kind of sad to say that because we're coming out of a win. But as I'm watching that game, I'm realizing that okay, there's obviously a lack of pressure here. But again, the Eagles are going up against arguably a top 10 offensive line, to which the Cowboys were sitting around 11 heading into week 5, and that could have very well changed because they're still efficient as a unit in the trenches. And as that game was going on, I just continued to notice that the Eagles did not have a lot of success being able to penetrate the offensive line and get after Cooper Rush. The Cowboys' offensive line held us to 0 sacks. Now, granted, we were still able to get pressure when it mattered most. And it's funny because it reminded me that performance back and forth, it kind of reminded me of what happened in the Super Bowl against the Patriots, is that, both teams were going blow for blow in different capacities. It's not like this was a high scoring game. We obviously know that. But the point is that, both sides, both teams were having little success in getting to the quarterback until until when it mattered most. And that's what pretty much happened for the Eagles when they were able to force the third interception, where you had the pressure by Brandon Graham, to which, some people thought it was a roughing the passer, and no, I don't think so. I mean, BG contacted Cooper with his hands first, so it's not like it was a direct shot, under the face mask towards his chin. So no, you're not getting a roughing the passer call there. I'm sorry, but yeah, I mean, as soon as they forced that third interception, that's where the trend continued, where the tides are turning, and sometimes that's the difference in a football game. If you look at the difference in what the Cowboys were able to do, they were able to run the football a little more effectively. I think averaging close to 5 yards a carry, whereas the Eagles were, hovering around the mid threes, which is, it's not the greatest result that you want. But if you look at it again, Cowboys were not very efficient either on third down, and a lot of that has to do with how smothering the Eagles secondary was in forcing incompletions, deflecting passes, the interceptions. And this is a game where I thought it was a lot more about the secondary than clearly it was more so about the Eagles defensive line.
I can't disagree with any of that you said. In terms of the defense at the end of the day, the D-line, they did what they could. They pressured Cooper Rush. Even though they didn't get to him, they pressured him at the end of the day, made him stay in the pocket, had to roll out. We know Cooper Rush is a pocket passer, so we forced him to roll out even though we didn't get to him. The linebackers, they did their thing. Hassan Reddick on the D-line, just trying to do what he can. Then, especially in the secondary, that was the main highlight of the entire defense. Slay got a pick. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson definitely had probably his best game of the season against Dallas. And then someone that I thought definitely, didn't really have any interceptions or anything like that, but had a couple nice pass breakups and some nice covers the whole game, James Bradbury. You got to give him credit. Some of the catches the receivers made, the coverage by Bradbury does not get much better than that. I will tell you that. That's just all luck by the receivers, and it's all skill, but Bradbury just gets his hands in there. He's just one of those scrappy and determined players that just gets all up in the receiver's face and just plans to apply pressure. And he did what he could, but it wasn't good enough. But he did what he could, and I think he still did a great job at the end of the day, even though he allowed some really tough catches by the receivers.
Right. So, Dante's saying here, Hassan needs the players around him to do well for him to make an impact. And honestly, that can go for anybody. That can go for anybody unless you're a transcendent talent. To a degree, Aaron Donald doesn't need that much help around him to make the impact that he does. This is the same argument that we have had for years with Fletcher Cox, that we have just constantly complained the fact that this guy is going up against double team after double team after double team because of the talent around him. He doesn't pose much of a threat to the opposing team's offensive line. There's a lack of penetration. Edge rushers are inconsistent, this, that, and the third. We made that same argument for Fletcher Cox. We made that same argument a little bit for Javon Hargrave when Fletch was going through injury. So it's just a unfortunate domino effect that the Eagles have been dealing with, but it hasn't been consistent as of lately. And I have to say that Jonathan Gannon is doing a little. I think Jonathan Gannon is doing a pretty decent job in how he's handling the defensive units as a whole. Although in this game, I don't think he helped the defensive line enough. I think he could have adjusted some of the I think he could have adjusted some of the formations. I mean, they were coming out in a base stance. There wasn't enough like wide nine looks. Maybe he could have thrown a NASCAR package in there. Something to kind of throw the Dallas offensive line off rhythm, because you've seen throughout that game how they were just able to manhandle Fletcher Cox, take him, just I literally seen Fletch get double teamed, and they're just shoving him out of the play. And it was kind of embarrassing at times to see that. But yeah, I mean, nonetheless, I think those are the things that the Eagles still need to clean up. This is another game against arguably a top 10 offensive line at the moment that they weren't able to generate a consistent level of pressure, and they were held to 0 sacks. And maybe there's a different, I don't want to be that guy to say that maybe there would be a difference if Dak Prescott was back there instead of Cooper Rush. But again, I'm not going to jump to that conclusion right away because, well, we only seen Dak play in week 1, and he didn't look all that great. so it's kind of hard to gauge where the Cowboys would have been had it been Dak Prescott under center instead of Cooper Rush, since there's not a lot of, there's just not enough there to go off of in terms of performance. But yeah, nonetheless, I mean, like I said, and this is the other thing. This is the other thing that's important. The Eagles through 6 weeks. For the most part, I think aside from maybe the Detroit Lions game, the Eagles were able to dominate in time of possession. Again, this is another game where they had a lead of 8 minutes or more. The difference in this game being that they had the ball 9 more minutes than the Cowboys. You watch Dallas shoot themselves in the foot too many times with 10 penalties totaling, 72 yards. That's not going to help you in the long run, especially when you're getting tauntings and unsportsmanlike conducts. There was too many crucial special teams penalties that they were suffering from. So I think if you take at least half of those penalties away and Dallas doesn't play as sloppy in terms of that, this either could have been a 1-score game, or dare I say, Philly could have potentially lost. I mean, I gotta be a little realistic there and say, again, this is another game where offensively the Eagles were inconsistent. They piled on early in the first half. Again, second quarter, they drop a 20 bomb on the Cowboys. They go up as much as 20-0 before letting up a field goal, and they're limited to 6 points in the fourth quarter. And going into this game, I warned people in saying that, against better teams, especially the Dallas Cowboys, whether you want to call them frauds or not, that's up to you. But against better teams, you're going to need to be able to play 4 quarters and put some sort of points on the board. And this was another game that the Eagles just weren't able to do that, aside from a masterful execution of a drive in the fourth quarter between Jalen Hurts and Shane Steichen. Steichen calling the plays, being okayed by Sirianni, whether that's what he wants to go with or not, and Hurts executing it to perfection. That third down conversion, understanding that Dallas is showing blitz, and then all of a sudden they drop back into coverage, and Hurts sees a big gaping hole in the middle of the field for him for him to rush to midfield and convert for a first down. I mean, those were the plays that had to be made. And again, Hurts has been pretty darn consistent when it comes to clutch situations. And when you're questioning on how somebody can or cannot be built to be your franchise quarterback, Hurts is checking off a lot of those qualities right now.
Yeah, I'll definitely agree. And like getting back to the defense, they played sloppy in the start of the second half. I mean, especially in the third quarter, letting Dallas come back, get all those points and all that. But Sirianni said this in his victory speech and all that, that there's still a lot that these guys are learning, and it's just a learning curve. He had the Eagles coming today, but they're having off the rest of the week because it is their bye week. They probably just did a film study today, figuring out what to work on and prepare themselves for the next game against Pittsburgh. And when it all comes down to it, I mean, this team just tries to get better. And a lot of these guys are still young, but some of these vets, I mean, when it all comes down to it, this team just has to come together. And I know for the fact that we're 6-0, but you said it, Lindy. I mean, against some of these better teams, I mean, the best team I see coming up on our schedule is probably the Packers. I mean, Steelers I don't see doing much. Same with the Texans. I mean, the tough stretch is going to be Indy, Green Bay, and Tennessee, depending on how all three of those teams would fare. But Green Bay is probably our next toughest opponent coming up because I'm not sure how Matt Ryan's going to do with the Colts coming as they go forward in their season. And then same with Tannehill. I know they have Derrick Henry, but when it all comes down to it, I mean, Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers, even though Aaron Rodgers still has to get used to those young wide receivers, Romeo Doubs and anyone else that they have, Christian Watson too. I forgot about Christian Watson. Aaron Rodgers, as long as they have Aaron Rodgers, they will find a way to succeed. Mark my words.
Right, and I mean, well, if we look at the current scope of the NFC, I mean, you got two of the best quarterbacks that are still playing either well into their 40s or approaching 40 between Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, and both of them are uncharacteristically struggling. Whether that's the loss of some players, injury. The Buccaneers' offensive line isn't to the standard that Brady wants, of course, due to injury and losing Ryan Jensen and a couple other guys that get banged up.
Marquette at right guard.
Right, and I think Tristan Wirfs was banged up at one point again, and he comes back. And then you look at the schedule coming out of the bye week here when you got Pittsburgh, the Houston Texans, Commanders, Colts, Packers, Titans. Our next 6 games, you can arguably say the Eagles are going to be favored in all 6 of those games. We're setting a standard. We're setting a standard right now for ourselves, and of course, it's going to be media driven. That's a lot of this is a lot of stuff that we have become accustomed to. In especially in watching the Super Bowl team post Super Bowl, how they were and were not able to handle that spotlight and the criticism, so on and so forth. But I think a lot of that had to do with the previous quarterback that used to be here, but he's gone now. And speaking of that quarterback, he could
you just don't want to name that man.
Yeah. Excuse me.
That guy that took over for the Commandos.
Yeah, and well, that same quarterback is potentially going to be out on IR for 4 to 6 weeks with a broken finger. So it may be Taylor Heineke's season again for the Commanders. We'll see how they adjust. And the Commanders had some quality games under Heineke that really Wentz hasn't been able to hit those kind of levels consistently, but that's the kind of quarterback we know him as. So let me see. Dante saying here, I knew Christian Watson would suck. Everyone thought this kid was going to be awesome. He's a garbage time wideout. People are seeing that now. It's and it's funny because it's funny you mentioned that, because I remember that his play style was actually compared and contrasted to uh, what's his name on the Falcons. That's I just had his name on the tip of my tongue. Drake London. That's what it is. And I remember people talking about Christian Watson, that his measurables mimic that of Drake London, but Christian is a lot less polished, where he's more of a tall streaker, and Drake is able to do a little bit of everything. So I mean, I didn't see a world in which Christian Watson was going to make an immediate impact for the Packers the way Drake London is able to for a dysfunctional Falcons team. And calling them dysfunctional is kind of bad timing, since the 49ers got absolutely upset, and I did not see that coming. But it's fun. It's funny. So I mean, yeah. But a lot of people were talking about that, and Christian coming out of North Dakota State and everything. But that's not the here nor there. The Packers have plenty of problems. They do. But again, going back to Washington, it's all going to depend on how well Taylor Heineke meshes back into this offense. And you never know. Heineke with Ron Rivera sounds like a little bit of a better combination than Jay Gruden, who used to be there. So I mean, we'll see how that goes for them. It's looking pretty bleak right now for Washington. Houston hasn't been able to connect anything and really string together some quality wins. They're still feeling through some things, although some of their rookies have been playing phenomenal. We already talked about the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then, like I said, getting back to the Packers, it's easy to say that Aaron Rodgers is not the same quarterback without Devontae Adams. He just isn't. Aside from that, they lose in humiliating fashion to the New York Football Giants. They lose Randall Cobb. I don't think he had Alan Lazard to start the season. Robert Tonyan is coming off of injury. They just don't have anybody in terms of viable or consistent playmakers, maybe aside from their running game between A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones when they decide to use them. But again, who knows what the Packers are going to look like come November 27th. They should improve just based on, it's Aaron Rodgers, but you just don't know to this point. And again, we're already almost 40 minutes into this call in. BLSG, I appreciate you hanging out with me for this one. Last week I was kind of by myself, and it got a little bit weird because I was kind of expecting somebody to bounce off of, but I do appreciate you being here. And for those that are still involved in the stream in any capacity, we're up to 6 viewers right now. Thank you so much for that. Bouncing between 6 and 2, and I know there is a hefty amount of streams going on right now. There's quite a crowd being drawn to multiple streams of entertainment. But if you would like to take part in the call-in, again, the link is in the pinned comment. So if you want to, if you want to celebrate this win with me and BLSG, get your thoughts out with the Eagles heading into the bye week and assessing where the team is in terms of injuries, so on and so forth, and how you like the Eagles' chances to possibly string together another 6 wins in a row. Yeah, it's almost a mouthful to say, but again, as we're talking about their upcoming opponents, BLSG, it's not a stretch to call it that. At the same time, that the Eagles could potentially go 12-0, but as we know for any team, the longer you're undefeated, the more difficult it becomes to keep that streak alive.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I know we can start like 12-0 and all that, but like people are always coming up and saying like, "Oh, the Philadelphia Eagles, they have an easy schedule. They can start out whatever the heck they want. They can remain undefeated and blah blah blah." Hey, don't come out here and blame that on us. There's nothing this Philadelphia Eagles organization can do about that. If you want to talk about the schedule for the Philadelphia Eagles, talk to the commissioner about that. Don't come over here and talk about that and blame that on the Eagles, because the Eagles, they can't make the schedule. They cannot make the schedule. That's up to the NFL, and in particular the commissioner and Roger Goodell. So if you want to talk about us having an easy schedule, talk to Roger Goodell. Don't talk to us.
Yeah, right. Addressing Dante's comment here, saying he had Drake number 1, Chris Olave number 2, and respectfully, they are the 2 best rookie wideouts. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting what Garrett Wilson is not doing, what he's not doing for the Jets, considering how high he was selected in the draft. But aside from him, I think Chris Olave is not talked about enough, and what he has contributed for the New Orleans Saints in them battling a little bit of a quarterback issue with themselves between Jameis Winston and trying to use a little bit of Taysom Hill, and then I think they have Andy Dalton over there, and that he had to back up Winston for a couple of games. So
You're correct on that. It is Andy Dalton as the backup.
And then coupling that with the fact that Michael Thomas has had an issue with staying on the field, and Chris Olave arguably has turned into one of the favorite receiving targets there for the multiple quarterbacks that the Saints have had under center. And it's great to see rookie contribution like that. Much like we've been talking about on the defensive side of the ball with Jordan Davis on how many times he has displayed himself on the field to just look like a brick wall and be able to stuff up the A and the B gap, on the offensive line, and just allow for nothing to happen in terms of an opponent's run game. But aside from that, it's good. Aside from that, it's good to see that he is on the field. But of course, it's in terms of conditioning, that's something that he needs to continue to work on. And it's different. It's different at the NFL level, and I think he understands that, much like the rest of the rookies do. And shout out to Joe Castro. Yeah, man, I was in your live stream. I was in your live stream a little bit earlier. You know that, man. Oh, yeah, big appreciation, man. By the way, that's pretty dope to see what you're doing with Michael Vick and everything, and all the podcast episodes that you got going on over there. Yeah, yep. Likewise, yeah. Big ups the other way, man. Big ups the other way. But like I said, I mean, getting back to the schedule here and how we can say or we cannot say Eagles have a possibility of winning their next 6 games yet again. And I remember being on a podcast. I remember being on a podcast episode with the East Coast Gridiron crew, and it was brought up about the Indianapolis Colts and their early struggles. And well, it turns out they seem to still be having a couple of problems there. And what I want to premise is, yes, Matt Ryan's their quarterback, and they wanted to move on from Carson Wentz respectfully, this, that, and the third. But the Eagles already know how to defend against Matt Ryan, for one. I mean, he got dominated last year when he was an Atlanta Falcon. Two, you can arguably say that his offensive weaponry hasn't really improved much in terms of the Falcons versus the Colts, aside from Jonathan Taylor, and maybe if you want to put Michael Pittman Jr. in that category. So, and defensively, they've been up and down. Who is it over there besides Darius Leonard? They picked up somebody in the secondary. I don't remember if it's Stephon Gilmore or not. I thought Stephon Gilmore went to the Colts. I believe he did.
It is Gilmore, I think.
Okay.
I think it's Gilmore.
Yeah. So I mean, because I think one of the last places that Stephon is bounced. I don't think he bounced to the Carolina Panthers or not, but former Patriot, and he was a free agency target that the Eagles were looking at, and I think he ended up heading to Indianapolis, and he's made a few plays already for them, but defensively, again, this is another team that doesn't scare us all that much. We already know how to attack Matt Ryan. And they have been having issues on the offensive side of the ball. You probably already understand that the Eagles are going to be favored in that game, but we'll see how we are coming out of the bye. Green Bay we already talked about, and then that leaves the Tennessee Titans. And if you're able to stop Derrick Henry, then I mean, I don't know who do the Titans really have? Who do the Titans really have aside from Derrick Henry? Tannehill is still their quarterback, and as far as what the Titans haven't been able to do this year, their defense isn't the greatest. They're 21st in points allowed. They're 21st. They're the 21st scoring offense. So it's not like when they face. It's not like when they face a competent defense that they're going to put points up. On the board, and this is the same thing. What happened to the Dallas Cowboys against us? To which you take the Titans, they're 21st in their 21st scoring offense. The Cowboys are 23rd. The difference is defense, and this is a team that the Eagles can take. That can take pretty good advantage of, if I'm not mistaken here. I mean, yeah, offensively, you got a mix of Ryan Tannehill and Malik Willis, Treylon Burks, not having the greatest rookie year. He's only recorded about 10 catches, 129 yards. He's not doing a whole lot. Robert Woods has been a little more effective than him. He has the most targets out of the receiving corps with 28. Nick Westbrook-Akine, again, he looks to be a little more effective than Treylon Burks, and Treylon was supposed to be the A.J. Brown replacement. And as of right now, it looks to me that the Titans are deeply missing A.J. Brown.
I think so too, man. I'm not gonna lie. They really miss AJ Brown right now, based on what they're getting from Treylon Burks right now. I mean, for the fact that they did pick up Robert Woods, I mean, I'll give them that. I mean, you definitely pick up a guy that was the number 2 for the Rams before going to Tennessee as your number 1. But again, like you said, it's not really helping out Tannehill like it is A.J. Brown. And then for Westbrook-Akine, he's just being the guy that he can try to be for Tannehill. He's trying to be the number 2 receiver. He was the number 3 I think he was the number 3 last year. Anyway, he's just trying to be the receiver that he can. And then Treylon Burks, he's looking like a bust right now for the Tennessee Titans. Let's keep in mind that he had a slow start to the offseason, and he looked like one of the first offseason videos that someone posted or he posted or whoever the heck posted. He looked rusty as hell, bro. He looked like he was so out of shape. I'm not even lying. He didn't look like himself that he was at Arkansas. He's not really shown it in the NFL, and he hasn't really showed since to help out Ryan Tannehill. And he's mainly had to rely on the other 2 receivers, Robert Woods and Westbrook-Akine.
And it's interesting. It's interesting when you look at the Titans because it's not like defensively Tennessee does not have any quality names on their defense. You look at Kevin Byard, one of the better safeties in the league, who just signed an extension with them. 5 games into the year, he's got 1 interception, 1 pass deflection. As a safety, you take of that what you will. 37 combined tackles. Nothing in terms of top safety money is really sticking out to you on that one. As far as I'm concerned, I think Roger McCreary is a decent corner. Christian Fulton, Caleb Farley ended up going over there. Joe Schobert at one point was a pretty good linebacker, but he's only played 2 games. I think he has fallen off a little bit. It's not like there's a bunch of scrubs on the team defensively. They just haven't. Andrew Adams is over there, but they just haven't been able to string anything together to this point, and especially when you take away one of your top offensive weapons just because you didn't want to pay him, and you don't have a quality replacement to help out your quarterback, then, well, as you can tell statistically in terms of offense, then it kind of becomes a problem because you're not giving your defense any rest. You keep putting them back on the field when you're just going 3 and out, not being able to sustain drives. You're tiring your defense out. Your offense can't put points on the board, and it's almost like it's Derrick Henry or bust. That's almost what it's become for the Titans offense.
Yeah, I can't disagree. Derrick Henry's been the main factor for the Tennessee Titans and that whole offense at the end of the day. Has Robert Woods put up to the level that Tennessee has wanted to so far through 6 weeks? No. Same question going to Westbrook-Akine? No. And with Treylon Burks, you already know what I'm going to say. He has definitely not played up to the point that Tennessee has wanted him to play up to. And when it all comes down to it, their only hope of life in that offense, in my eyes, is Derrick Henry. They got to hope that what they call him the king after his 2,000-plus yard season, they call him the king, and they got to hope he carries that offense because the receivers are not doing anything for Tannehill, and Tannehill is not really doing much for them. So Derrick Henry is pretty much their only hope on that offense, and you just can't say much about anything else going in the pass game because that's just not working out.
And I only think in terms of Treylon Burks with what Dante is saying here is I think the only reason that there was an extended interest in Treylon in terms of the Eagles is because of the relationship that Aaron Moorhead had with him. The receivers coach was there, I think, executing executing the pro day for Traylon and getting stuff set up over there. I think Traylon Burks was one of the top 30. I think he was a top 30 visit for the Eagles, if I'm not mistaken. He may have or may not have been, to my knowledge. I don't remember. But nonetheless, he was on the Eagles' radar. And, well, if the Titans are gonna put AJ Brown to the middle of the table and say, you guys can have him if you want to pay him because we don't want to. And it was just, I don't know. That was just, I'm sorry, that was a massive mistake for the Titans to make. But moving on from them here, we'll get back to the remaining schedule that the Eagles have, and it's funny because week 14 and week 18. Late into the season are when the Eagles play the New York Football Giants. Right now, the Giants are 5-1, coming off of a win against the Baltimore Ravens. And as much as we wanted to dog the Giants and put them as bottom feeders in the NFC East, as some Eagles content creators have done, I kind of had a feeling in the back of my head that I trust, to this point, I trust Brian Daboll a little bit more as a head coach than I do Ron Rivera. But granted, Ron Rivera, to his, well, not to his credit, but to his benefit a little bit, that he was working with a better quarterback in Carson Wentz versus Daniel Jones. But I think what speaks bigger volumes is what Brian Daboll was able to do in resetting and enhancing the culture for the New York Giants after the much needed departure of Joe Judge and others involved in his coaching staff, to where there seems to be a new sun shining over there. I don't know if I'm going to classify them as frauds to this point, and being 5-1 in the NFC, because I think statistically they're about the same as the Dallas Cowboys. Offensively, they're nothing impressive in terms of offense. They have very little talent, and they have very little talent in the receiving corps right now, partly due to injuries. Disappointing players. Kenny Golladay. I think it was Sterling Shepard that they ended up losing, or Darius Slayton. One of those two. They lost injury.
It was Shepard. It was Shepard. So, Slayton is on second offense.
Okay, right. So, you look at that. They're not a team that's going to push the ball down the field. With Daniel Jones' arm and being able to create explosive plays like that. They get back Saquon Barkley, who looks explosive again off of his ACL injury. But in terms of offense, they're the 18th scoring offense in the league, but defensively, again, top 10, much like the Dallas Cowboys. And right now, with what they've been able to do, with Wink Martindale as their defensive coordinator, Mike Kafka working with Brian Daboll as an offensive coordinator, I don't know. To me, the coaching staff has more stars on it than the team does in terms of the players. But sometimes that could be an overwhelming difference in what you're able to create collectively, to have your players execute their responsibilities at a pretty high level. And that's what the Giants have been able to do to this point.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people thought the Giants were going to get like 4 or 5, something like that, in terms of like the wins. And that's looking like the Commander's spot right now, based on what Wentz has done so far through 6 weeks. You could consider with the Commandos, and the fact that the Giants are 5-1 is probably shocking the National Football League right now. With Daniel Jones leading the way at QB, Saquon getting back to his old ways at the running back position, Galladay and Kadarius Toney both banged up for the Giants, and you have Darius Slayton stepping up. You have what's his face, Richie James. You have him stepping up for you. And then there's another guy. Don't even get me started on what the heck his name is, because that one I just went mind blown on. And then Bellinger's being a solid piece for them as well in terms of the tight end room, the rookie that the Giants got. The offensive line is definitely changing. I kind of figured that this O-line was going to improve from the Giants, especially with picking up Mark Lewinsky from the Colts and putting him on the right side. And then the fact you pick up Evan Neal, put him at right tackle, and the fact you have Andrew Thomas at left tackle. You improved on the O-line, and especially the defense, too. I mean, the fact you get Kayvon Thibodeau, who, in my eyes, had a pretty good game on Sunday against Baltimore. And then that whole team as a whole has just definitely been some to, give respect to. I mean, who all expected the Giants to start out 5-1 and begin their season like this? I don't think any of us thought this was going to happen for the Giants, and they're finding a way to make magic happen. And the fact that especially Saquon is healthy up to this point, again, is something that the Giants fans, and as much as I hate to say this because I'm an Ohio State fan, Penn State fans should be happy for.
Right. And again, you look at the Giants here, and I'm looking at Daniel Jones statistically, and he kind of mirrors what Cooper Rush has been doing for the Cowboys in the previous 5 games. The two of them have not pushed the ball down the field. Daniel Jones is only averaging about 6.5 yards per attempt. He's got a passer rating of just over a 90. Yards per game is at 170. So again, you're looking at a tale of two teams here. The Giants and Cowboys mirror each other pretty well, to where they're both defensively driven. The Giants and Cowboys are defensively driven teams that have been the difference maker in winning football games. I thought it was funny a little bit that the Ravens lost to their former defensive coordinator, and how unfortunate that was for them. And who would have thought the Ravens would be sitting at 500 right now? I think that goes for the 49ers as well. There's plenty of teams that are sitting at a fraudulent 500 record. The AFC is being controlled right now by 2 juggernauts in the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills, and then in terms of the NFC, the Eagles are almost in complete control right now. So I mean, where do you go from here? And then we look at and we'll round out the schedule here for the Birds, and you get to some of the last few games here. You play Dallas again at Jerry World week 16 on Christmas Eve. the week before that, you go to Soldier Field to face the Bears, and I think we know how games go there in the wintertime. Gets very cold, but that's nothing the Eagles. That's nothing that the Eagles in Philadelphia aren't used to already. Our first meeting against the New York Football Giants would be Week 14, December 11th. New Year's Day, the Eagles then play the New Orleans Saints. They have them at the Linc again, so you can almost chalk that one up. You chalk that one up as almost an obvious win. The Saints have been up and down in their own right. Of course, quarterbacks battling injuries and flip-flopping between Jameis Winston, Andy Dalton, them still using Taysom Hill in that way a little bit. So I mean, we kind of have an idea on who the Saints are by now and how how Jalen Hurts has been able to dominate their defense. So that's not a game that we're particularly worried about. I mean, I don't know. Nobody really scares me of what's left on the Eagles' remaining schedule. You already know the Cowboys are gonna come back competitive with the return of Dak Prescott. They're gonna be in Jerry World. Take of it what you will. That's when we got our spanking when Dallas decided to put up 52 points on a practice squad defense. But aside from that, you already know that they're going to play us competitively like they did on Sunday. The New York Giants are going to do the same thing. Again, we don't get to see the Giants until week 14. And that's the other thing. That's the other thing I want to bring up here. Right now, the Giants are 5-1. Do you trust them deep into the season to maintain this level of consistency in their play? I mean, that's a question that you have to ask yourself going forward. So, I mean, the Eagles, worst case scenario, have an excellent opportunity to finish this season 12-5. But then you have to ask yourself, well, in the remaining schedule from week 8 to week 18, in those 10 games, where are your 5 losses? I don't know if I see us getting swept by the Giants. Worst case scenario, we split with them. Worst case scenario, we split with Dallas. So that's 2 of them right there. Depending on how Green Bay plays, we have them for a Sunday night game at the Linc. So we'll, I don't know. That's a tough one. That's a tough one to me too. We necessarily haven't had the greatest luck recently against them. The Colts, I'm not worried about. Texans, no. Commanders, no. If we're able to take advantage of a weakened Steelers defense, then that should be a win. But I don't know. As of right now, I can only pick out 2 losses. And it's a worst case scenario situation to which we split against our division rivals in the New York Giants and the Cowboys. I'm not giving the Commanders any chance at all to this point.
As long as they have Wentz at QB and they don't let Heineke take over, I mean, I think Washington was better. I think Washington was better when Heineke was the starting quarterback. I'm not going to lie to you. I think they liked Heineke more because I think Heineke was the better leader. Wentz is not a leader in that locker room, and I will tell you that to say the least.
And we know that to this point. Aside from going over the schedule quick, the last thing I want to mention with the Eagles going into their bye week is how important it is for some of our guys to nurse injuries that they are kind of going through, especially most importantly, guys on the offensive line.
Lane Johnson.
Lane Johnson, unfortunately, going through that concussion, which knocked him out for the second half.
Landon Dickerson, I think.
Landon Dickerson is, he's got a bit of an issue with, his leg and particularly his ankle, and and as of right now, we know how irritating ankle injuries can be to offensive linemen. And I get it was an Achilles injury, but watching what Brandon Brooks went through, and most notably, Lane Johnson had that issue at one point too with his ankle. He had a nagging ankle injury that would keep him off the field as well. So right now we are in a prime position to get a lot of to get our guys healed up just in time for this next half or final stretch coming in after the bye. And a lot of us aren't fans of early bye weeks, but considering the circumstance, I don't think it could have came at a better time.
Yeah, that's for sure, to say the least.
So it looks like I was able to carry the stream for about a good hour and 11 minutes. We did have some viewership go up and down, and as I said throughout the call in here and in the beginning a little bit, the streaming traffic was going to be crazy. The Thomas Mott show featured Philly Mike, Lord Brunson, and Philly 500. They had a nice Eagles roundtable going on over there. Jimmy Smith was doing this thing around the same time that I started my stream. A couple of other things were going on. So, I mean, me being towards the bottom of the totem pole here in terms of content creators, it is what it is, and that's something easy to understand. But nonetheless, I am pretty excited for some plans that I'm looking forward to. Trying to schedule this coming week. As we know, during the bye week for content creators, we like to get together to just to get into conversation on how the Eagles have been at this, at whatever point in the regular season that their bye week happens. It gives us some extra time to get together to do some of those discussions. So I have some ideas. I may bring back the Touchdown Talk series. Episode 20 has not happened yet, so I'm working on that. I may have something else big coming up too. Just waiting on some things to get cleared through. And, of course, do not forget, every Tuesday night at 9:30, the Linc'd In Podcast for Sideline Sports Network over on Philly Jim's channel appears for a good hour. And like at the beginning of the show here, I think between Jim and I, there's going to be no holds barred, and we're going to let them Cowboys fans hear it. we certainly are, as we did on Sunday. But I think this would be a good time to close everything out. BLSG, you were in studio you were backstage even before the stream started, and I do want to thank you for hanging out with me and making this call-in stream a little less awkward. That I'm not I'm essentially not trying to carry the show on by myself and whatnot. So, any other closing thoughts that you can think of with the Birds heading into the bye week that that you can note for us to keep an eye on?
Well, not really much in that category, but Lindy, I didn't want to let you be all alone tonight on the studio and everything, because we know how it's been in the past, especially last week when you literally just brought it up right there. I just want to look through the chat real quick on two particular comments. One from Bob Source saying that Heineke's the starter because of the injury to Wentz. I did already know that because he is the second string quarterback for Washington. I just thought that he's the better leader for the Commanders, because the Commanders, I think they like Heineke as their leader more than they do with Carson Wentz. And then Richie MC, his last comment saying Sixers versus Mavs, who wins. I'm gonna have this come down to surrounding pieces around the star players. So for the Sixers, it's Joel Embiid. For the Dallas Mavericks, it's Luka Doncic. Around Joel Embiid, you got James Harden going into hopefully what is a healthy year for him. Tyrese Maxey, who hopefully is going to hopefully be either that second or third option for the Sixers, to look for Tobias Harris to hopefully put up his 17 to 20 points a night. And then PJ Tucker to, knock down shots when needed and for that bench production. And then for Luka, lost Jalen Brunson, which that is going to suck for Dallas. I just have to give the edge to I just gotta give the edge to Philly. And I'm not trying to be the biased man. I'm not trying to be biased here. I just think Philly's got the better surrounding pieces, but we'll see once the regular season starts and see how it all pans out.
I don't know. What's his name? Campazzo was just touring the facility as as a depth piece at the guard position. We traded for Christian Wood in the offseason from the Houston Rockets. Spencer Dinwiddie is still there. Davis Bertans, to my knowledge, is still there. Luka is going to get his first team All-NBA in a row. You can book that. He's again going to be, dare I say, top 2 in MVP conversation this year. Y'all got to be paying attention, especially what he did for his country, Slovenia, in the Euro tournament. Even though it ended in a way that I didn't want it to for him, but. Dare I say? I don't want to be. I don't want to be another one of them people. But the league's in trouble. The league's in trouble. I'll tell you. I'll tell you that between Luka and Giannis, arguably are probably the two best Euro players, international players. In the NBA, I would probably have to say Luka and Giannis, and it would probably be a. I'm losing my mind here because I think I went a little too long, but definite runner-ups. Yeah, no question, Joel Embiid, and I think between Luka, Giannis, Embiid, and Jokic, you can interchange those 4. And make the list however you want. But right now, bias aside, my top 2 are probably Giannis and Luka right now. But we'll see. It's very early. Opening night hasn't started yet.
For the Sixers, it starts tomorrow.
Yet.
The Sixers, it starts tomorrow.
Right. So yeah,
already in a doozy with Boston in the TD Garden to start it off. Oh, I cannot wait! I can't wait for that game against Boston.
Well, that's gonna be weird, considering what happened to Ime Udoka. So,
Udoka down because of the suspension or the fine or whatever the heck he got. And then, the fact that, they have Brogdon on the injury report and Gallinari out for quite a little bit. So those are 2 pieces off the bench that they're definitely going to miss going into this season to start. But they'll get them back eventually. Not sure Brogdon's going to play tomorrow night. If he does, then go for them because he'll definitely probably be a bit of bench production right there. But Gallinari is going to be out for a few weeks, and then Robert Williams. That's going to be another guy that they're going to miss. They're going to miss Robert Williams too for the first 3 months probably.
Right. So sometimes I wish I still did. Sometimes I wish I still did Dallas Mavericks content, but it's kind of hard for me to keep up with 2 teams and create content for both between play-by-plays and film study and all that stuff. So I wish I still did. I wish I still did content for the Mavs, being I love basketball, but sometimes that's part of the sacrifice. But before this carries on any further, again, thank you to everybody that has come out, to the call-in stream here, and again, big thanks again to BLSG for hanging out with me for the entirety of this presentation on a Victory Monday with a lot of content creators going on. So I knew I knew it was going to be hard to fight with traffic here, but it does mean a lot that people are still going to go out of their way to to watch a lesser like me when there's bigger guys going on. It's it is what it is. But thank you to everybody for hanging out. This has been Lindy Endzone for the touchdown and taking the lead for the Philadelphia Eagles, one video podcast or stream at a time. Be sure to check out the next episode of the Linc'd In Podcast tomorrow night at 9:30 with myself and Philly Jim. And as for BLSG and I, we're going to sign out of here. Fly Eagles, fly, bleed green. You already know the deal. Enjoy your 6-0 Bleeding Green Nation. You guys, we got a lot to be excited for. But as Jalen Hurts has said, still left a lot of money on the table, and you already know that they're going to go after it when they leave the bye week. So take care, everybody. Have a good one. We'll catch you later, and see you next time.